In this episode of PulsePoint, we'll update you on these topics. An ACT MP lodges a bill to remove the 6-month prognosis criteria for euthanasia. Several high-profile New Zealand sporting identities and Olympians have signed an open letter urging the government to prioritise fairness and safety for transgender athletes participating in sports. ABC News is rebuked by pro-life group and asked for correction over abortion claims by moderators in the recent presidential debate. Australia is moving to impose age limits on social media. Should New Zealand? And finally, a surrogate mother in the UK wins the right to see her biological son in landmark case. Welcome to PulsePoint, the latest media stories and research related to family and society that you need to know about. It's time to cut through the spin and uncover the real issues. I'm Tampi Stowers. There has been some disturbing news around the development of euthanasia here in New Zealand. David Farrar, a euthanasia advocate, argues the cost of euthanasia potentially reduces the cost of palliative care. Now, the annual cost of euthanasia is approximately $500,000 compared to the palliative care, which is $186 million a year. However, this cost fails to account for the possibility that dependent elderly people may be coerced into assisted suicide or euthanasia. Now, elderly and ailing patients are also all too aware that their increasingly expensive rest home and geriatric care is steadily dissipating the inheritance that awaits their children. Now, the End of Life Choice Act only provides a right to one choice: premature death. There is no corresponding right to palliative care. At an individual level, the economically disadvantaged who doesn't have access to better health care could feel pressured to end their lives because of the cost factor or because other choices are not available to them. Now, the law has introduced a new element of financial calculation into decisions about end-of-life care. This harsh reality is arguably the elephant in the room in the debate. And in further disturbing developments, ACT MP Todd Stephenson has introduced a member's bill to Parliament which seeks to extend eligibility for euthanasia services by removing the current requirement for a terminally ill person having a 6-month prognosis. Now, this latest bill is the beginning of widening the net of euthanasia, as we've seen in countries with similar euthanasia laws. The bill has been introduced even as the End of Life Choice Act is currently under review. You can make a submission on the review. You just need to go to our website, familyfirst.nz, and look under research and issues. Now, submissions can be made online via the Ministry of Health website and are due 5 p.m. next Thursday, the September 26th. Several high-profile New Zealand sporting identities and Olympians have signed an open letter urging the government to prioritise fairness and safety by rethinking the guiding principles for transgender athletes participating in sports. Now, more than 50 former Olympians, including gold medal winners Barbara Kendall and Joseph Sullivan, 4-time Olympian Stephen Ferguson, and former silver fern Anna Stanley, known as Nero Berry, signed a letter that challenges the government to ban male advantage from women's sports. Now, the group believes Sport New Zealand, led by Raylene Castle, is out of step with recognizing the biological and psychological differences and inherent genetic advantages between sexes in sports. Now, the open letter was presented to Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters by Roe Edge from Safe Women's Sports Australia. It was also presented to Minister of Sports Chris Bishop. Bob McCoskrie spoke to Roe Edge after the presentation and asked what response from Chris Bishop was. Have a watch.
Chris Bishop, I think, was a little bit shocked by the letter. I don't think he was expecting us to be as prepared as we were. He really didn't believe that this was an issue in community sport, and that came across loudly and clearly. And even when we started to show him some examples, he immediately started to write them off and say, those are overseas, they're not here. And we're like, no, Minister, these are here. And so we've actually given him context to 2 brave women who are willing to speak to him so that he can actually hear their voices. And when he recognised that, I think he started thinking, well, why am I not hearing these voices? And so that's when we presented the guidelines and said, these are all the reasons. Every sports policy begins with a threat. the transgender guidelines Sport New Zealand produced basically say that if females raise issues of concern about fairness and safety, that is called discrimination, bullying, and harassment. And so there's no opportunity. And I think by the end of our meeting, it was a pretty robust discussion, I'll be honest, but I do think by the end of the meeting, he finally got it. The penny dropped. And there was one thing actually, Bob, that he told me in an email back in May that he was happy to take the watching brief approach that he was doing on the transgender guidelines, because Sport New Zealand had informed him fairness and safety there were exemptions in there for females. But I pointed out to him today that there weren't, and he couldn't find them either. So I think that was a big reason for his turnaround, and he'll be very unhappy with his officials, I would imagine.
The other criticism is that transgender involvement in sports doesn't affect sports at a local community level.
So we have a lady in Nelson who played roller derby, for instance. She'd been playing it, I think, for about 12 years. She loved her sport. She'd been the victim of domestic violence, and for her it was a fantastic outlet to be with women and play sport. A man self-identified into her roller derby team just for the purposes of roller derby. He lived as a man the entire remainder of his life. And on one of the first games, he was quite aggressive on the roller derby rink. And so she kindly asked him if he could just try to be a little bit less aggressive, because it was actually creating anxiety for her. And he just basically had to go, and she ended up being pushed out of her club. We have, a 12-year-old girl who played in a cricket tournament. Well, there was a whole lot of 12-year-old girls who played in a cricket tournament over in the Hawke's Bay, and a boy was self-identifying as a girl, and he dominated games that he was in. But he was also sharing the accommodation with these 12-year-old girls. At no time was any consent given by the parents for their daughters to share accommodation with a boy.
We will continue to monitor this issue. Pro-Life America's president, Susan B. Anthony, along with Focus on the Family's Jim Daly, has criticized ABC News moderators for their handling of the recent presidential debate where former President Trump made a claim about post-birth abortion. Now, Trump referenced comments made by former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam in 2019, which suggested that in rare cases of third trimester abortions, a baby born alive might not be immediately given medical care.
When we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion.
They have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Both Pro-Life America and Focus on Family US argue that the statement is inaccurate and requests a correction from ABC News, citing reports and data on babies born alive after failed abortions. A Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report estimates that between 2003 and 2014, around 143 babies died after being born alive following failed abortions. Now, Mrs. Davis and Mr. Daly requested urgent correction from the network and the debate moderators, encouraging the network to meet with abortion survivors who are a living testament to the need for born alive protections. Australia is moving to impose age limits on social media. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese made the announcement on Thursday, saying the government would enforce the minimum age on social media and other relevant digital platforms.
This is a scourge. The bullying that can occur online, the access to material which causes social harm. Every parent is concerned about what their young ones are having access to. Social media has a social responsibility also to do the right thing here. not to pretend that it's nothing to do with them, because it is causing harm.
Now, could this happen in New Zealand also? Surprisingly, there is some cross-party support. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said, "It's something that I've been following as well from around the world, as you know, with mobile phone bans and things like that." He said he was up for looking at all of that. Labour leader Chris Hipkins also said, "I do think keeping kids safe online is becoming more and more of a challenge for parents, for schools, even with incredible filtering that we have in our schools already." Now, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube are among those that require the user to be 13. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist and author of the new book, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness, which was released in March. Jonathan was also interviewed as part of Family First Forum on the Family in July. Here was his summary of how we should respond to this issue.
So the first is no smartphone before high school. In the United States, we have a clear divide around age 13, 14. Give them a flip phone. Give them a phone watch. Don't give them the internet in their pocket before 14. Second rule, no social media till 16. Social media is completely inappropriate for minors. It's an adult-only thing. It's full of sex and violence. It's full of solicitation. It's full of marketing. It's full of real dangers for kids, all kinds of scams, manipulation. So, adults, we let them make their own decisions, and if they want to do things that are bad for them, that's their choice. I don't want to let companies just reach my children and do things that are bad for my children without my knowledge or permission. Yeah. This is insane. So no social media before 16. And for that, it would be really helpful to have laws. We can actually get this done mostly just with norms, not laws. But on this point, getting legislation, which is happening in Florida, in Utah, it's happening in the UK, is working on this too. If we can get legislation to say you can't even open an account until you're 16. The law currently says 13 and it's not enforced. Why not raise it to 16 and enforce it? So that's the second rule. No social media before 16. The third norm is the easiest of all. We can get it done this year. It's phone-free schools. It's complete insanity to let kids have a phone in their pocket during school. Most schools say you're not allowed to use your phone during class, which is like saying to heroin addicts, you can bring your needles in to the clinic, you can bring your stash in, but just keep it in your pocket. Just don't take it out and everything will be okay. They can't. They have to take it out. They have to be texting during class. They have to be watching TikTok during class. So the only solution is lock up the phones in the morning when they come to school in a phone locker or a yonder pouch, a lockable pouch. The fourth is the hardest because it's the one where we have to give up something, not our kids. It's more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. It means we have to overcome our fears and let our kids out and let them hang out with other kids with no adult supervising. What if there's a fight? What if there's an argument? What if there are hurt feelings? Yeah, that would be actually good. They need that.
This is another issue that we will continue to monitor. And finally, as New Zealand considers a bill before Parliament which makes surrogacy and donor status easier, this case from the UK should make us think carefully. Following a gay couple's claim that it was homophobic for a surrogate mother to want to visit her biological son, a London court has sided with the mother, restoring her visitation with the boy. Now, according to the Daily Mail, the woman carried a child for the man using her own egg and sperm from one of them, while she handed legal responsibility for the child over to the man at the child's birth. She also signed a document that gave her visitation rights. The two men, however, began to block her from seeing her son. They said it would confuse him because he lived in a motherless family and there was no vacancy for her just because he has same-sex parents. Now, children have a natural right to know their biological parents. Denying a child that right is the result of an adult-centric situation in which adults' desires are being fulfilled while a child's rights are being ignored. For more information on developments in New Zealand, you can now go to our website surrogacylaws.nz. And that's the latest episode of PulsePoint. You can check out all these stories and more on our website, familyfirst.nz. We'll keep watching the news so that you don't have to. See you next time.